going on, vinyl community? Welcome to another video with the Record Spinner. In today's video, I give you my top picks for the best albums of 2024. Some channels here in the YouTube vinyl community do these sort of videos as the year comes to an end, where they'll highlight some of their favorite albums that came out within the year. And I personally never attempted to make a video like this, so here I am 6 years into my YouTube career, continuing to do firsts. Tackling this concept though was a nice stroll down a forgotten lane, because I honestly forgot how many solid albums came out this year, and it was fun to go back and revisit some new albums that I hadn't listened to since they came out as new. Now, obviously, this video is based on my personal music taste, so there may be some notable albums missing, but if you follow my channel, you know what to come to expect. But if you're a new face, maybe I'll subject you to something new to check out for yourself. There is quite a lot to get through, so enough of the chit-chat. Let's jump into what this video is all about. First, we are going to kick things off with an album that was a real return to form, and that's Saviors by Green Day. The Bay Area elder statesman of punk really came back on solid form with this album, the last one being Father of All, which just reeked of contractual obligation. This one sort of rides in the middle of what most fans seek out of Green Day. With 15 tracks clocking in at 46 minutes, it has the rapid-fire flow of older albums like Kerplunk and Dookie, yet compositionally it has the maturity of albums like American Idiot and 21st Century Breakdown. When he was in his 20s, Billy Joe Armstrong wrote about the impending doom of early adulthood, and now in his 50s on this album, he still has every bit of angst that he had back then. Tracks like The American Dream Is Killing Me and Living in the 20s paint a bleak picture of living in 2020s era America, and Dilemma tackles concepts of addiction, and with its gritty drop D tuning, it's the radio hit off the album. Yet you have tracks like Look Ma No Brains and Strange Days Are Here to Stay, where the band hones in on their signature sound, and Father to Son, which is a touching orchestral ballad. Saviors is Green Day consciously kicking it up a notch consciously, thus crafting, I think, their best album in almost 10 years. Next up, I gotta talk about the OG Spaceman of Kiss with 10,000 Volts by Ace Frehley. Ace has maintained a prolific solo career over the past 15 years, releasing 3 solo albums and 2 covers albums, but in some cases, having an outside producer call some shots could be beneficial. So he teamed up with trickster Steve Brown, who also served as co-producer and multi-instrumentalist, and while there is some debate over how much Ace did on the album versus Steve, the truth is a good album is a good album, and to quote Paul Stanley, the sum is better than the parts. Tracks like the title track, Walking on the Moon, and Cherry Medicine are well crafted and have tons of great hooks that make them memorable instead of just going in through and out the ears on first listen. There's also the track Back Into My Arms Again, which was a demo from the Frehley's Comet era. Of course, you have the obligatory cover song with Life of a Stranger and the closing instrumental Stratosphere. While Ace's 1978 solo album will always go down as his absolute best, I'd say 10,000 Volts comes second, and yes, that even encompasses the Frehley's Comet material. Next up, we have a doomful homage to the Godfathers of Metal, that being Black Sabbath, with Doomed Forever, Forever Doomed by Zach Sabbath. This group is, of course, led by Black Label Society founder Zakk Wylde, and a few years back they honored Black Sabbath's debut album on their album Vertigo, and this time around, Doomed Forever, Forever Doomed focuses on both Paranoid and Master of Reality. While Zach Sabbath has its own sound, the arrangements are very faithful to their originals. When it comes to Sabbath, especially those early 70s albums, I can't ever get enough of them, and I kind of consider Zach Sabbath as a sort of authorized tribute act given Zach's ties with Ozzy. I'm really hoping that they continue on with the Ozzy catalog, but this double punch is absolutely ripping. Next up is an album that I'd go as far as to say that it is my favorite new album of 2024, and that's A Dream Is All We Know by the Lemon Twigs. Everyone around me said that I would love this band, so I pulled the trigger blindly, And what can I say? It's as if the Lemon Twigs were captured in a time bubble from the 1960s and brought into the 21st century. Tracks like My Golden Years and They Don't Know How to Fall in Place have Brian Wilson's DNA all over them, with sweet sounding falsettos, harmonies, and lyrics regarding personal introspection. Church Bells has a cool Beatles-esque bridge. Peppermint Roses has the swagger of Ray Davies and the Kinks. If You and I Are Not Wise sounds like Big Star with janglier guitars. And Rock On Over and Over is just a cool, glammed out rocker. It goes to show that this album is the Lemon Twigs' most direct sounding album that draws right from their influences and is destined to please old souls and those who love sounds of a former era. Next up is perhaps the most daring album to come out by this particular band, and that's Nell Ora Blue by Uncle Acid and the Deadbeats. I have been singing this band's praises for a while. To me, they are a 21st century Black Sabbath, churning out great riff-driven psych metal. Now, their albums tend to have themes running through them with songs relating to a subject matter, but Nell Ora Blue is a full-on bona fide concept album. The kind where not one song could stand on its own and you almost are cornered to listen to it as a whole. It pays homage to the realm of 1970s Italian cinema, and Uncle Acid merely serves an instrumental score behind the Italian dialogue that tells a story involving corruption, revenge, and murder. I love the idea and the execution, but I'm not gonna lie, I haven't taken an Italian course since high school, and it's a small challenge to get through some of the Italian dialogue. But in turn, this is Uncle Acid's boldest artistic statement, and while it's nothing like what they've done previously, it hits the sweet spot to make longtime fans enthralled with it. Next up is a Raving Boogie with Flight B741 by King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. This band has got to be the most prolific band of the 21st century, maintaining an impressive streak of 26 albums in just 15 years. That is unheard of in this day and age. These guys have shapeshifted their sound so much over the years, starting out in the realm of psych pop and morphing into psychedelic rock, jazz, acoustic folk, progressive rock and metal, and electronic music. On this album, they've sort of returned to a bluesy boogie rock sound that gives the listener a good dose of serotonin and oozes of feel-good positivity, particularly on the album's leading single, Le Risque. It's very fitting that the album came out over the summer because it's the kind of album that you can just vibe out to with the windows or top down. Now, I can't vouch that their next album will have the same effect since they love to cross over to different genres so frequently. Actually, I think the next album that they teased will be a symphonic album. No joke. Their work ethic is untouchable. Next up, we get Dreamy with X's by Cigarettes After Sex. This is a total contrast to the regular stuff that I listen to, but this is one of my favorite newer bands that I, like most other fans, discovered thanks to TikTok, and they offer some of the best atmospheric music coming out today that delves in ambient/dream pop, slowcore, and shoegaze. After a 5-year gap, these guys finally delivered their third album, and I say this with all due respect, Cigarettes After Sex kind of has the AC/DC syndrome going for them, where you hear one song and you more or less have heard it all. But this time around, they break their general music dirge with elements of dance pop on tracks like Tejano Blue, Dark Vacay, and the erotic Baby Blue Movie. Despite these slight changes in sound, I think in the years to come, they'll continue to maintain their signature sound while weaving in elements to make it fresh for both new and old listeners. Next up is another solid return to form with No Name by Jack White. The way this album was launched to the unbeknownst public is classic third man hype and has all of the mystery Jack White tends to shroud over his legacy. Random third man vault members received mysterious clear vinyl LPs with plain white labels bearing the title No Name stamped in blue, and this was highly coveted by collectors, fetching prices upwards to $800 until the colored indie and standard black pressings came into the market. Now, Jack will always be best known for his work with the White Stripes, and that sort of bluesy garage rock revival sound is what he'll always be remembered by. And He kind of shook that with his solo career starting in the 2010s, and sure, he maintained a sort of blues rock borderline throughout, but on this album with tracks like Old Scratch Blues and That's How I'm Feeling, the latter being a #1 hit on the alternative rock charts, thus becoming a radio staple, No Name is where I think Jack White fully revisited and embraced his roots with an album that matches the aesthetic of what he had done before. Last but not least, we have one of the gods of guitar with Luckin' Strange by David Gilmour. It's so great to see the Pink Floyd Axeman continue to be prolific with his first solo album in 9 years. He continues to honor his friend and Pink Floyd keyboardist Richard Wright with the album's title track, which actually has some keyboards from Wright which date back to the mid-2000s, and even The Piper's Call can be likened to a track from Pink Floyd's early discography. Gilmour's daughter Romani also takes the lead vocal on Between 2 Points. David said that he wanted to make an album that discarded some of the past he felt bound to, and producer Charlie Andrew challenged him to approach the songs in unique, different ways. You definitely get a sense of that, but by doing so, Gilmour doesn't stray from his trademark lucid and ethereal guitar style. Luckin' Strange is definitely David Gilmour's most boldest album artistically. So there you guys go. Those are my top picks for the best albums of 2024. Big question for you that's watching. What are your top picks for the best albums of 2024? Please put them in the comments down below. I'd love to know. And if you enjoyed this video, please go ahead, give it a like, and subscribe to the channel. See you guys in the next video. And most importantly, keep the record spinning.